Welcome back, everybody, to Midday. Julie Hartle is joining me now. She's from Opton, Salt Lake County. Welcome to the show. This is part of our In Focus report on suicide and mental health. You do something called mental health first aid. What is that, Julie?
Well, mental health first aid gets tools in the hands of every person. For instance, we all know and have heard of CPR. We've heard of the Heimlich maneuver. We know that when a person's bleeding, we apply pressure. Mental health first aid teaches us the skills to work with people who are in a high level of emotional distress and know what are the resources? How can we help them and move them to a place where there's more security and where we can get them professional help?
Why is this something that you are passionate about?
I'm passionate about it because I'm a person who is living a life of recovery from serious mental illness and substance use disorder. And I also happen to be a person who has survived a suicide attempt 23 years ago. And suicide is preventable if we get the tools in the hands of basically everyone.
Julie, we talk about it a lot. I mean, there are headlines that say suicide and the rate here in Utah is one of the highest in the country. Are we doing enough? Is it enough to keep mentioning it?
Well, we're doing more than mentioning it now, thankfully. We're providing classes like this. This is one of the things that Optum is very committed to. And there are task force now. There are different things that we're doing in the community that's more than talk. And so that's encouraging. I think any time that we get the subject out in the open and we start talking about it, we destigmatize it, and that's important.
Well, even mentioning Demi Lovato a little bit earlier in the show,
right.
You know that this is something she's struggling with in a very, very public way.
Right. And she has been a great advocate for mental health services and what it means to find a pathway to recovery and what it means to work on that, and that it is a brain disorder and that relapse is a part of it. But there are many, many things that we can do to support people in those situations. Right. And thankfully, she's getting that support.
Julie, speaking of those many, many things you can do, you're holding some books there. Can you give us a tip or two from the mental health first aid?
Yeah. One of the first things is that if we see a person who is in distress or we know is in distress, asking some difficult questions. For instance, you know what? I see that you're really struggling lately. Do you ever go to bed hoping that you don't wake up in the morning? That's kind of a softball approach, but that's an important question to ask. And asking that question, and then depending on the answer and being persistent, we might need to ask it more than once, knowing what resources are available and getting the person in touch with resources.
Do you think we don't ask that question because we're afraid of the answer and how to respond to it?
I think that's exactly why we don't answer, or why we don't ask it. We often don't ask what we fear. And so, again, how do you get across that bridge? You learn skills. And once you have the skills in hand, then you're much more comfortable with those difficult conversations.
Julie, if someone said yes to that, yes, that's how I feel, what should you do next?
Well, the next thing you would do is talk to them, listen non-judgmentally. Just really listen and validate the distress that they might be experiencing. Then encourage professional help and encourage the person to reach out and be that person that will sit with them. And actually, if you need to call the crisis line together, do that. We have a crisis line in Salt Lake County that anyone can access. But again, that can be a fearful process if you've never done it before.
The crisis line is on the screen, everybody. And also, if you'd like to sign up for mental health first aid, Julie's information at Optum SLC is right there on your screen. They have a website. Go to our website and we'll link you to all of that. I learned so much from you, Julie.
Well,
I think
thank you.
that's such a great idea. Also, everybody, our In Focus reports